EV Mavericks. If you're watching my streaming window on Discord, make sure that you go ahead and mute my screen that I'm sharing. That'll cut down on the echo if you see it. I'm seeing that I am offline here on YouTube, but you know what? I'm recording locally. We can upload it later. All right, so we're going to go straight into the rundown of the rich list. Let's take a look here at number 10, Harag at 79, 696_ETH at 80, Henny Abu at 82, Scientist at 85, Crypto Currency at 94, Set One Less at 97, Tricky Troll at 101. Benito 2030 at 122, Logri the Bard at 129, and the almighty everlasting Super Fizz himself sits atop the leaderboard at 198. All right, let's go straight into our opening tidbits here. Our announcements: the Ethereum ETF is approved. Party horns, party hats, right? And the great Sassel has returned. Anthony Sassano took an extended break. Good for him, and he has come back and woke up bullish. All right, so we're super glad that he's back, and we're also equally glad that he has taken a well-deserved break. May 31st next week, upcoming guests Chris and Jean-Paul and Interweaver of Influence, and June 21st, Brendan Asselstine of PoolTogetther. Our morning roundup: day trader BIH chimes in Ethereum. Frank the Tank chimes in at 3804 on the price action, and the A-word at our beloved ratio has climbed up dramatically to 0.056. Our weekly haiku, courtesy of JS Tears, a commodity, programmable oddity, ether quality. How does he do it, JS Tears? How do you do it? And it's Chota time, ladies and gentlemen. ETH, take my energy. And our shit post of the week, because we always like to save the best for first. Oh boy, it's going to be a good one, I can tell, because the first few words are, "It is a tale as old as time." In the days of yore, it was the exploitation of serfs and the indentured servitude of the layman for the few pulling the strings at the top. Nowadays, it is venture capitalists going public once market saturation is reached, and multinational corporations squeezing the last drop of profits through shrinkflation and in-shitification so that they could buy up all of the family homes in Western nations. It was said that one day the tables would turn. Some thought that was the communist revolution in Russia, but we all know how that turned out. Other more shrewd folks have been saying that wealth flipping has yet to come and is almost upon us. The time is nigh. I can feel it in my loins. From 2009 onwards, for the first time in history, the little guy could get access to new financial primitives from the very beginning. Follow Bitcoin's unprecedented rise. There was a second opportunity with the Ethereum ICO, which launched in 2014. Open to all, the gateway into a new financial system had opened. Sometime in 2017, I somehow stumbled my way on board this movement, and that despite being a broke university student, but that didn't matter. That's just how big this opportunity was. Shortly afterwards, the long-rumored flippening was supposedly on the table. No, not the ETH BTC flippening. The flippening which the lower and middle class have been waiting for since the dawn of time. The flippening of financial opportunity. For once, the incumbent, antiquated systems designed to entrench wealth amongst the upper class was holding them back from the latest opportunity. The gatekeepers of TradFi tasked with keeping the everyday man safe from the best wealth building opportunities now found themselves gatekeeping the rich and powerful out of the biggest opportunity yet. At first they laughed. Such an opportunity couldn't be anything other than a bubble, but the bubble showed no signs of popping. Soon they realized that they had to fight it, or else it would become entrenched on its own, outside of the existing system. Knowing better, the grassroots community building out this new paradigm did not yield. With every line of code and every battle fought in court, their new system became stronger, more resilient. And so, here we are, sitting On the precipice of this long rumored flippening, the cycle is nearly complete. Upon realizing the inevitable game theory of a superior technology in an adversarial and capitalist world, the finks of the world made their intentions clear, and the gatekeepers could no longer stand in their way. The future is tokenized, and the future is public. The big gates are opening. For the first time in human history, the people have had the opportunity to front run the establishment. The established has become the exit liquidity. The institutions are coming. It has been an honor being on this ride with you, gents. Not only has this opportunity been once in a lifetime, it has been once in an eon. Gentlemen is imminent. LOL, just kidding. Larry, you can pry my ETH from my cold dead hands. This solo staker ain't going anywhere. If you're lucky, you can have my staking rewards for a pretty penny. My God, Tricky Troll. Holy shit.
Legendary.
My God, he's been holding on to that one for a minute. Huh? Oh my God. Well,
there's some passion in that one, right?
My God, dude.
Even it got JT animated, right? Like,
which is not hard.
My stuff, dude. You know, he used to read my stuff, and he's falling asleep in the chair.
Oh no, that's not even true. I just when I'm reading your stuff, Logri, I'm trying to figure out how these words all work together. But
exactly, there's just these like years going like, how does this syllable fit into that syllable? What even is this word?
Yeah,
really tricky.
Yeah. When Tricky Troll writes like it's a 300 gladiator movie, it's. Well, anyway, let's bring it back full circle. Anthony Bertolino, a.k.a. Italian Stallion on Reddit, a legend, an old friend of ours on the Ethfinance Doots podcast, and an old friend of mine just in general. Welcome back to the show.
What's up? What's up? Yeah, man. It's been a long time. That was an amazing story. I feel like that needs to be put on a scroll, and some people need to like put that in their man cave or their, I don't know, their backyard or maybe their living room.
I love it.
So always happy to be here. Always good to see you. Always good to see the boys and girls. For those who don't know me, Anthony Bertolino, have been full-time working and investing and writing about Ethereum since 2017. First large major stint professionally was co-founding iTrust Capital, the first crypto retirement account platform in the U.S. Grew that to a unicorn. Then I joined PoApp as the first growth hire.
That's right.
Did a lot of great things at PoApp. And now I'm with Obol, making home staking more accessible to almost everyone. And always good to hang out, chat Ethereum. Let's go ETF.
Let's go ETF. Well, I'm on your homepage here, obol.tech, obol.tech, building distributed validators for Ethereum. So you're bringing home staking to mom and pops in a way so they don't have to set up hardware. Am I reading this correctly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the website is quite old. We have our new website coming soon. So if you go to the website, you should see something new in the coming weeks or so. But for those who don't know, I mean, everyone here knows what a validator is, but we're changing it from basically it takes 32 ETH and one person and one machine to run a home validator to multiple people can squad together, put 32 ETH total, so each person brings a certain amount of ETH, and they run it as a squad, and it becomes a distributed validator. So it's very important for Ethereum to continue to get more home nodes and home validators to decentralize the chain. As many people know, we can't have it all in data centers and with exchanges and liquid staking protocols, professional operators, and we're making that happen among other protocols and teams. Okay. Decentralization, baby.
Okay, so the other side of this coin are the people who are currently running nodes and validators. How can they get involved? Is that a thing?
Yeah. So next week, we're going to be announcing something called squad staking, which has kind of been talked about kind of quietly in the community. Sasano and many people talk about it. But there is a new opportunity, thanks to distributed validators, for groups of people to squad together and run a sort of jointly owned community validator. So for people who already run a validator, and you're earning rewards, you'll be able to take those rewards and deploy your next validator much faster. right? To wait for your rewards to get 32 ETH for most people takes a long time or never. And so it's just lowering the barrier to entry. So existing solo stakers will be able to kind of squat up with others and deploy a new validator. I'm most excited about the people who are not rich enough or haven't had access to deploy a validator and do not have 32 ETH, who maybe have like 4 ETH or 6 ETH or 8 ETH, which is still a lot of money, but is substantially lower than 32. And yeah, buy some hardware. We have a lot of great partners coming online. You get a box as low as like $500 and get going.
So, okay, is there a minimum? Did I miss that? Is there a minimum amount of ETH to participate?
Yeah, good question. So the first thing that's important to know is that what is actually happening here is an Ethereum validator is going to be deployed. And on the Ethereum blockchain, it will be recognized as an Ethereum validator. It's literally just a distributed validator. And so there it will be 32 ETH because it fits within the same rules of Ethereum's current consensus mechanism and design. And so what that means when you're going to squad together, right? You're going to get a group of people, you will need to cumulatively get to 32 ETH. So what that could look like is 10 people could squad together and bring 3.2 ETH, but maybe 4 people could squad together and bring 8 ETH, right? It's just mathematics, right?
Just got to get
32
to
ETH divided by the
32.
number of participants.
Okay.
And the exciting thing about this is Obol's like credibly neutral DB middleware to actually deploy these things allows for the first time ETH to be delegated much more trustlessly. And so even people who can get together, deploy a validator, get some experience, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to get ETH delegated. Sort of anyone who meets the criteria can become a professional node operator of sorts if that suits your fancy. So yeah.
And of course, this is a chime in show. Like if anybody in the Discord chat wants to unmute and ask Anthony questions, we usually do like a 15 to 20 minute roundup. And so just unmute and you can ask some questions and participate as well. So Obol's got, you've got an announcement coming up soon. Is that something you can relay now, or do we have to wait a while?
Yeah, so for this in particular, we can definitely talk about it. What we did have last week that was sort of came out and we couldn't talk about before was our 1% for decentralization promise. And so most people know Obol because of we're one of Lido's key partners in decentralizing the Lido operator set, which is like one of the most important things happening in Ethereum staking right now, in my opinion, is Lido and these liquid staking protocols need to decentralize their operator set so we are not beholden to these 10, 20, 30 big enterprise data centers, people who take all the ETH and stake it and are professionals. And because of that partnership with others like EtherFi, etc., a lot of the professional node operators, any rewards that come in when people run distributed validators, 1% of those staking rewards are going to be put aside and go into a pool that is a funding for decentralization pool. It's 1% for decentralization. You can see it on our blog. But we as an Ethereum community need to find a way to take the ever-flowing stream of staking rewards and put that back into the ecosystem to fund open source and public goods, things to empower the Ethereum consensus layer. The last 5 years, we've seen millions of dollars invested into the execution layer, like layer 2 scaling, and we have like 100 layer 2s now, which is great. We've seen hundreds of millions of dollars invested into data availability, like INDA and Avail and the other one, Celestia, that everyone's so excited about. But we haven't seen a lot of money invested into the consensus layer. And so Obol is the first one to commit to that. And that was out last week. It's worth reading on the blog. And then next week, we're going to show how this technology is very accessible to a normal man who wants to run an Ethereum validator, but has been priced out because he couldn't get 32 ETH, and making it accessible. Yeah.
So when somebody wants to find a squad to team up with, is it like a Tinder profile, or how does that work?
That's so funny because I wrote a paper on something I called Squad Squad, and it was basically like a web app for Tinder, where you can maybe say like, "Oh, I've ran a node or whatever, little profile," and you can make squads. Right now, squad matching is off chain, kind of generally rough, right? It happens in various discords. It happens on Twitter. Happens on the Obol like discourse forum where people are like, "Hey, I want to lead a squad. Who's with me? Here's who I am." So you can go to the Discord, you can go to Discourse. Um, I think the coolest thing I'm excited about is existing communities who have people who are semi interested in staking forming their own squad. So like let me know when EVM Mavericks are trying to do a squad or
Interesting.
Daily Doots boys are trying to do a squad and I'm totally down to be one of the participants and we need, four or five, six, seven, eight. We can talk about the combination.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's a community owned validator, and we can send the rewards in any direction, right? The Obol has something called Obol Split, so you can split the rewards and send it to the people running the validator, of course. But send 1% to the Protocol Guild. You can split it in any ways. Some nonprofits in Africa who need help, like anything. It's
Oh,
amazing.
interesting. So you can allocate like your public goods funding or whatever, green pill type thing you want to do. That's pretty fascinating. It automates it and kind of strips away the whole like DAO governance thing. Once you set the, once you make the one vote about where you're going with that extra money, if you want to give it to those causes, then it just runs. That's neat. Automated. I like that.
Yeah.
And I bet Logri the Bard's ears were popping up there with the idea of using the community, to produce an Obol validator set or what have you, because that's something we always like to do is when we bring on guests, it's like, okay, how can we use this inside of our toolkit of community. Um, Very good. Logri,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so yeah, of course. So you may or may not know, but ASTIS is a AVS being run by Curating and Asselstine. And as part of an AVS, most node operators are also expected to run Ethereum staking like nodes, right? It may make sense to reach out to them to make OBOL the implementation of any nodes that the ASIS relay team is supporting. And then
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
And then I know that there's a bunch of ETH being delegated to ASIS, like RETH and other things being. I think there's over 2,000 being delegated to ASIS through the EVM community. So we're trying to support those initiatives. I just think it might make sense to reach out to them and pair with them specifically for any Ethereum nodes that the ASIS like infra team is supporting.
Yeah, I'll have to look into them in particular, but like kind of zooming out, and so thank you for sharing. Zooming out and looking at AVSs in general, I mean, an ABS is getting its security, like theoretically, from the Ethereum validators and the ETH staked, right? And so you want to have that ETH staked and those Ethereum validators be ideally as, strong, decentralized, tamper resistant, have the best uptime, all of these like properties you would want out of a good validator, a good operator. And DVs just make that a little bit easier, right? And so, yeah, I mean, would love to talk to them. Um, the great thing about distributed validator technology is at least how Obol's designed it. It's like this credibly neutral thing, right? It's a piece of credibly neutral middleware that sits between the execution layer and the consensus layer, and it's great for institutions who want certain value props, but it's great for the normal man who wants to just like run an Ethereum validator who's never been able to and wants to decentralize a chain. I'm more of the guy who's interested in the everyman, but I still recognize the value for institutions, enterprises, and ABSs. And so, yeah, I would love to look into that and have our business team reach out and see how they can help.
The other side of that is okay. If you have a community managed validator, um, where are the withdrawals keys set to? Can they be set to eigenlayer? Then how do you decide amongst the distributed validator which ABSs the collateral is delegated to?
Yeah, good question. So you can set your withdrawal address to EigenLayer and turn your validator into an EigenPod as is normal. In regards to how you then point that stake at various different AVSs, it's probably the same as it's done with EigenLayer today. I'm not entirely sure. Um, So yeah, happy to come come to our Discord or hit me up after. Our team, our technical team, can definitely help with that. But there's certainly people who are running distributed validators today who are acting as an eigenpod and securing eigenlayer AVSs. And I just haven't done it myself. But it's the great thing about this is it's literally just an Ethereum validator. It's not like an Obol validator. It's not a weird protocol. It is an Ethereum validator, and almost all the same rules apply. All the same rules do apply.
Excellent. Is there anybody else that has any questions for Anthony? And Anthony, where can we find Obol next? Are you guys going to any conferences coming up? Can we find you in the wild?
Yeah, always. The Obol team's always floating around. Obol's one of those things. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you will know eventually. People who are involved in staking often know. But yeah, like we're gonna have a big event at ECC as well. So yeah, hit me up. Always love to just hang out with my Ethereum fam. So yeah, anytime.
Very good. And I'm going to show you guys are also hiring. It looks like you're looking for some engineers. You got a platform engineer and testing, senior full stack engineer, protocol engineer, head of operations and finance, and research engineer. Looks like a lot of these all of them are remote or in Libsyn,
Yes.
Portugal.
And today or tomorrow, I'll be listing. I mean, I haven't ever seen this role before, but the staking community manager role. So, for anyone who's listening who has run Ethereum validators, is very interested in Ethereum validators, is kind of technical and interested in helping shepherd some of the community motion, you'll see that go live soon, and that'll be a fully remote role.
Okay, and so you guys don't have a need for like a ship poster or a part-time barbecue expert?
I would say that we should definitely chat about ETHCC barbecue.
Hey.
Because that's always fun.
Excellent. Well, Anthony, I'm so glad you could stop by. We hope you can stay. I know you're a really busy guy. We're going to jump into our top dudes of the week. If you want to hang out and be a color commentator, or if you have to leave,
Yes,
you can give us an Irish goodbye. Either way, hope you can stay. All right, let's get right into it. We've got quite the list here post ETF. As always, I never read these ahead of time because I always like to see what the A word has put together for us. This is a user belligerent chocobo shares some reason for optimism. Is a chocobo, is that Final Fantasy reference? I think. Anyway,
I don't know.
Okay, it's a duder number 2.
Where was your childhood?
I played a little bit of Final Fantasy. I did. I think I rode a chocobo across the plains a couple of times. Okay, you Debbie Downers, belligerent chocobo says, here's some small bits of optimism. Number 1, article highlighting growing tokenization push by TradFi, this time in the form of a pilot project involving some TradFi heavyweights. And it goes on from there. Number 2, yesterday, BTC broke out of its downward trend since March and is also just over its 50-day SMA. Yes, I know many people in here love to shit on TA and Bitcoin for that matter, but a rising tide lifts all boats. Number 3, look, ETH ETF denial is priced in. And not only that, I'm going to stop right there. It also looks like an ETH ETF approval was priced in. And not only that,
Right.
isn't that wild? It's just like we were all like sitting on the train at the train station waiting to depart. It was like they're still fueling it up. And not only that, I'd go so far as to say that if the main reason for denial is some BS like weak correlation between spot and futures, ETH's price is likely to see a nice bounce. And even if the SEC goes into it's a security route, I'm still not even convinced that it'll be bad for the price. After all, the market has already been digesting this possibility for months, and there will at least be less uncertainty. Okay, well, we're looking in the rearview mirror now. All right, so that was belligerent chocobo. I will go on the record. Personally, I always thought there was still a possibility it would pass. All these calls that we've been doing in here for the last few weeks with even Ram Aliwalia, and then we had the gentleman from Texas, Adam Bloomberg, and these were professionals in the space. They all thought it was like 90 some odd percent not going to pass, but you know, there's black swans in politics that changed that tide a little bit. So I'll take it, whatever, you know. Let's see, moving on down the list. Physilisics, I don't know, shares a research piece that's bullish on Ethereum. He is a duder number 7. Not sure if this was posted here already. Maybe I didn't spot it in between all the whining. Coinbase published a research piece about their Ethereum outlook. The TLDR there is bullish as ever. Quote, "We think that ETH may yet have the potential to surprise to the upside in the coming months. ETH does not appear to have major sources of supply side overhang such as token unlocks or miner sell pressure. To the contrary, both staking and L2 growth have proven to be meaningful and growing sinks of ETH liquidity. ETH's position as the center of DeFi is also unlikely to be displaced, in our view, due to the widespread adoption of the EVM and its L2 innovations." Goes on. That said, the importance of a potential spot US ETH ETF cannot be understated. We think that the market may be underestimating the timing and the odds of a potential approval, which leaves room for surprises to the upside. In the interim, we believe the structural demand drivers for ETH, as well as the technological innovations within its ecosystem, will enable it to continue straddling across multiple narratives. And that is yours truly, Physilix and Coinbase. Moving on down the list, ETH2353, user ETH2353 is a duder number. I have to adjust my chair here. A duder 14. Excellent. Covers the appeal of the Alexei Pertsev tornado cash case, and user DefactoCool shares their take as someone involved with European law. God, I love it. We got freaking people that are involved with European law and Ethfinance. Amazing. In the interest of keeping you updated on the tornado cash case in the Netherlands against Alexei Pertsev, his legal team filed an appeal with the local court of appeals right away on the date of the verdict. It's not yet clear whether the appeal has been approved, but the good news is, according to some sources, Alexei is free on bail for the time being. Now, since I'm not a lawyer and don't feel qualified to objectively judge the court's verdict, I'd like to leave these things to the subject matter experts. Thankfully, today, a local Dutch law firm published an article in English analyzing the verdict and concluding, quote, "From my perspective, the judgment fails to address these questions adequately, indicating that it is ripe for appeal." It goes on there with summary of the case, and lining out the items within the case that are not addressed adequately. So the first one is the role of Pertsev in the whole thing and the co-perpetration concerns, the questioning of criminal intent. Okay, and user DefactoCool, who is apparently a lawyer or works in legal jurisdictions within the EU, duder number 9 says, "As someone in a legal field in a different EU country, Sweden, I can't say anything about Dutch law necessarily, but if our system is any indication of their system, it wouldn't at all be surprising if the lowest courts is a coin flip of whether they're reasonable and rational or batshit. And it would also surprise me if their lower courts in this case and in general defer to the, quote, common sense, unquote, conclusion, simply because this case is so novel, and leave it to higher courts to delve into the nuances if they deem it reasonable to do so. Stupid as it may sound, a lower court, so less authority, lowest hierarchy, little to no precedential power. Precedential is PREC, not presidential, as in Precedential power may well decide to err on the side of simplicity because it recognizes the complicated nature of a novel legal question is above their pay grade, and they could throw a wrench in the gears by trying to properly deal with the complication. At the same time, a universal legal principle is that for criminal law, the courts should side on the benefit of the defendant where the law isn't entirely clear. So, it's not like I'm happy with the situation. Also, I will say that a reason for why the lower courts being tolerated for what they are here in Sweden is because we have an automatic right to appeal. It can't be denied to the second level courts. So a criminal case will always be tried at a second instance if the defendant wants it to. I can't find online if the Dutch have a similar system, but if they do, it would also go a long way to explain why a lower court may be less hesitant to be more stringent to a defendant. The Dutch also seem to have a more professionalist second instance of tribunal of 3 judges. So the risk of the important questions simply being ignored is significantly lesser than in a trial with a single arbiter. This is fascinating. So there has been an appeal filed, and there are some questions. So we'll see how these courts roll with this. It's just incredible to me, that whole case. Okay, user Barthib shares some must-see charts on decentralization. Ooh, chart time. This is the Bitcoin proof of work centralization versus Ethereum proof of stake centralization. User Barthib is a Deuter number 26. Awesome. Okay, there you go. Founder USA, 28% of total Bitcoin hash power. Antpool, 24.79. And then via BTC at 13. Wow. Okay, this moves on down to Ethereum. This is the centralization of Ethereum, and it looks like it's a Lido. Lido, the lard ass, is taking up most of the pie chart from anyone else. Coinbase is pretty fat too. Wow, good. You know what? Charts mean things, and I think people ought to realize just how centralized this is. Crazy.
It's gotten better, right? All the various LRTs are like slowly vampire attacking 1 or 2% here and there. So it has improved.
Yeah, so here's one issue, right? That I feel like most people, it's kind of a nuanced thing. The other day, Swell withdrew 10,000 ETH and 10,000 Lido ETH, and then like everyone rejoiced, right? And I do not understand why we are not asking for more transparency where that ETH went, because there is a very good chance it went to literally the same operators. And for us to rejoice when things like this happen, I think means we're not doing the right thing for our community. And I would love to discuss this, even if for 30 seconds.
Anybody
anyone call out who said this is anyone who says this is good? Do you know what operators it went to? If not, I would be careful to not spread misinformation.
Even if okay, so having it under the same operator is one thing, as in like if the operator takes the node offline, or the operator can cause the funds to be lost, and they can do some kind of ransom attack as a result of that. But otherwise, the operator can also chooses what software is running, what node software is running, right? And so if they want to inject something evil, they want to get it slashed, whatever, right? All of that is true. However, if it's under Lido as a block has more power to do evil than any individual node operator, right? So I would still, even if it's on the same operator, if it's the upper management changes and it's more distributed, it's a monotonic improvement. It might not be an optimal improvement. And I don't disagree with your point that I would like to know that's it's going to different operators. But I think I would still celebrate that it's not in Lido. Right, Lido as a voting block is able to do dangerous things, influencing layer 0, for example, that a 1 or 2% operator doesn't have as much clout to do.
I see what you're saying, but I feel like we need to be much more critical and to be celebrating Lido dominance going down, but then us not like being like, let's be honest and pragmatic about, is this going to the same group of men holding the same private keys who can do damage to our beacon chain? I just feel like it's not honest, but maybe that's for another deeper
I don't think
conversation.
it's dishonest. I think it's just, as ever, it is not fully reasoned, right? I think most takes on the internet, right, that there are many different perspectives of ways of looking at it. Some of them just require having thought through all the implications more, right? And because it's the internet, humanity is greatly variable. You get people commenting at every part of the spectrum of having fully thought it out. So I think you'll find the majority of people, their attention is so divided that they don't have all the clock cycles available to sort of think through all of this. They're too busy watching the ETF. They're too busy with their kids every day. I attribute it not to malice, not to evil. I attribute it to just humanity is greatly variable, and any given issue, the majority of people are going to have uninformed takes. But
Yeah.
I
And
but I don't think that this is a bad thing that goes out of Lido. I do agree with you that as you think about it more, what really matters is the number of anonymous, people that cannot talk to each other and coordinate to do evil to the network, right? That is your civil resistance. That is your
which did not increase, in this
which is
case.
your Nakamoto coefficient. Yeah. So if it goes back to the same operator, that did not improve really. The network would still be taken down by 5 guys as opposed to 6 or something, right? So we care about that, but it's also very difficult to measure, right? And a lot of the data that we would want to measure that, like, okay, we have Coinbase's 1MD up there. How many people, individual minds at Coinbase, have to consent, even if they have to lose their job, but basically have to pull a trigger on something, hit a key, enter a credential, do something in order to take all of Coinbase's operators offline or patch all of their nodes that they are running to some malicious software. How many people? If it's one DevOps guy, that's very dangerous for the network, right? If it's 20 or 30 people have to kind of there's an extensive approval process and it's physically or cryptographically insured, then the Nakamoto coefficient at Coinbase isn't 1, right? I'm not going to say it's the equivalent of 20 fully independent people that's under one corporation. And you can fire people that don't do the thing the management wants, but it's certainly better than 1, right? So that there's nuance to that chart and how we interpret it, but it's difficult to get a measure of Nakamoto coefficient. It's easier to get a measure of a pie chart that we just saw. So people will look at the data that we get, even if it's imperfect, it's not the data that we would want. And if there was a chart of here's the number of node operators, then I'd love to look at that, right? We could see how it moves around. We'd be having that conversation, but I haven't seen such a thing.
Exactly. I think that's the thing. I don't want to hold more time here because you guys have a lot on the agenda. But basically, us as thought leaders and vocal leaders of Ethereum and who want the decentralization, for us to cheer when things like this happen and paint the picture that it's decentralizing when it very well could just be going to the same operators, maybe because it's going with some LRT token sprinkle kind of game, just so new brands can pop up, but going to the same operators. And for us to rejoice on that, I think is not good. And instead, we should be saying, let's be honest, which operators did this go to? And if you are not publicly stating that when you're saying that you're a vampire attacking Lido, then we don't like you and we don't trust you. But right now we're going, we love you, we trust you. And I'm bearish on that kind of movement, but that's fine.
Okay, I think that's a fair enough take. If you're saying we should hold our key opinion leaders, our goals, to a higher standard, and you don't see that being met, that is a much smaller target audience that we can maybe do something about. Let's move on. I think I agree with you on that much.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Also, that was a original tweet by Evan Van Ness, for what it's worth, OG. All right, very good. Moving on down the list. User Interweaver explains the 2022 MEV theft exploit. Okay, this is a bit of a read. I'm probably gonna leave this on dailydoots.com. So let's do at least the opener here. So Ethereum processes lots of user transactions. Those transactions are submitted to many places, but commonly the public mempool that is maintained by all the Ethereum nodes. Validators propose new blocks to add to the blockchain, and they are the party that gets to decide which transactions and in which order those new blocks contain. If they do this themselves, it is called local block building. But in practice, most validators use a piece of software called MEV Boost. More on why it's called that shortly. To receive built blocks from external builders who pay the validator for the privilege of selecting the block's contents. Those blocks are passed to the validator via a neutral third party called a relay. Now, many of those user transactions, quote, leave money on the table in one form or another, and clever third parties can take that money, which we call MEV or MEV, for themselves. They usually do that with the use of bots. Okay, so I think what it was in this particular case was bots trapping other bots. And that's just like the dumb guy way of explaining what had happened here. So these brothers were able to take $25 million of MEVers money, which they thought was completely safe, but due to this loophole in the way MEV Boost worked, it was actually not. The loophole was subsequently patched by having the relay broadcast the signed block body to the network for several seconds before sending it back to the validator. So the validator doesn't have a chance of getting their own version of the block accepted. He finishes up, was this a crime? I honestly don't know. A lot of us were cheering for them at the time because it was a case of one of the dark forest inhabitants who regularly preys on normal users getting eaten by an even bigger and darker denizen of the forest. On that battleground, I think a lot of us assume that everything is fair game. If you play that game, you better be ready to watch your back. But it would appear that the MEVers that got taken advantage of are both wealthy and pissed off, and that's a recipe for lawsuits. We'll see what happens. It will be a fascinating case from the, quote, code is law perspective. The MEV people will have to argue that this was a crime without also implicating their own entire business model in equivalent crimes. Ha. And that is brought to us by Interweaver. OG legend Interweaver is a duder number 48. Yeah, it's all fun and games stealing people's money until, like you steal a wealthy person's money. Then you get the lawsuits going. Okay, user Jay's Kid 05. Boy, that's a new name. At least I think it's a new name. Celebrates a continuing decentralization trend, and user Harog explains why Eigenlayer is also less of a centralization risk than it was. Jay's Kid. Oh, wow. Duder number 1. I thought they were new. Yeah, they're a duder number 1. So this is their first time making it on the daily and their first weekly Doot. Congratulations. He goes on, hadn't checked for a while, but according to clientdiversity.org, the dominance of fetch fall to 55%. That's impressive. The huge worries of Geth and Lido are gone. Which ones are the worries now? Again, another great example of how the Ethereum community got proactively started, involved into keeping the health of the Ethereum ecosystem. User Harog goes on, the following is my current understanding. They have to split up the staking into two tokens now, ETH and Eigen. Before that, the goal was to only use ETH. In my understanding, the problem with the old approach was that all the slashing would have happened on ETH. But most slashing conditions for the current round of AVSs are not verifiable on chain. This necessitates that one has to come from an agreement amongst AVS operators that one of them has to get slashed. Most of the time, the conditions are pretty clear and they can come to an agreement. But in the case of a malicious majority for a certain AVS, they can slash other operators, steal their ETH, and there is nothing one can do, even though it is obvious that they are malicious actors. The only recourse is to make an irregular state transition, which means forking the Ethereum chain like for the DAO hack reversal. It would be messy, it would hurt Ethereum, and is not something one would like to have again. This is my understanding, the issue with overloading the consensus layer. In the new system, these kind of not fully objective slashing conditions are moved to the Eigen token. If AVS operators collude to take away Eigen from one operator, the community will most likely see this as an attack and could just fork away into a new Eigen token. If the social consensus is that it was a malicious attack, the forked away Eigen tokens will retain the value and the original, air quote, Eigen token will lose its value. This takes a lot of power away from AVS operators and especially allows forking the value and security of the Eigenlayer protocol without forking the underlying Ethereum chain. This greatly reduces the amount of ETH that is needed in the Eigenlayer protocol, which will also reduce the amount of ETH staked in it, which again helps with the resilience of Ethereum. Before that change, there was the concern that every single ETH will be restaked. I do not see this happening anymore. As said before, this is my current understanding of Eigenlayer, and I'm sure I missed some issues the protocol still has. I am definitely happy to learn about them. Very good. Nice summary. User Scientist covers some bad news for keeping Lido dominance at bay. There's a reoccurring theme here, I think. Duder number 85. Wow, big time on the list. Some bad news on Lido staked ETH dominance. Lido co-founders Paradigm secretly backed Eigenlayer, blah, blah, blah. What? Okay, competitor as DeFi battle lines form. Okay, let's see. Paradigm and Lido plan to ship a restaking competitor to Eigenlayer. As you can imagine, Lido ST ETH deposits would be heavily incentivized in Symbiotic, ironic new name for the product, which will likely shoot up dominance higher. On a side note, Kobe was a Lido co-founder. Don't ask me how or why. Lido obviously foresees the social layer being another cock block for their new product when it ships. Kobe tweets, in the past 48 hours would make more sense with that context. I'm kind of lost on this. I don't know if Anthony, you have anything, or Logri?
I mean, I'm happy to see Eigenlayer competitors, generally speaking. I don't want, let's say, 30% of all ETH staked ends up in an LR into a restaking platform at some point. Just keep in mind, when we see things like Help and Swell and whatnot, those are LRTs. The LRTs deposit into a restaking platform. They themselves are not restaking platforms, right? And we don't particularly want a monopoly in the app space on any particular thing. Like, I don't want to have Compound be the only lending facility, right? So I'm happy to see things like Aave, right? Similarly, I don't want Eigenlayer to be the only restaking platform. I'd like to see competition. That said, seeing it from Lido when they have no pledge, agenda, or seemingly value the centralization of the network, is a threat, which is all the posters saying here, right? I'd like to see this technology. I'd like to see it in a non-scammy way, because Karak has some shady history. And I'd like to see it from players other than Lido, because they already have enough dominance. You know that they'll be trying to grow their dominance because they pledged to do so.
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
agree. Competition, moralization. I guess if we look at, Lido's a DAO. If we look at like their number one or number two mandate right now is to decentralize their node operator set. So hopefully they'll be doing that fast. And I assume Symbiotic will allow other deposits and it won't just be Steth. So yeah, like let's try to avoid getting captured by Eigenlayer here. I think it's net positive.
All right. Good deal. Iteradastra reminds us not to get greedy. A word of caution to everyone, old and new here. Yes, this is one of the most bullish things that has ever happened in the Ethereum ecosystem. Excuse me. And for crypto in general, the ramifications are huge. Legislation was probably the biggest obstacle to the vision of Web3, and now it seems like, and you feel like, the price is going to 5K, 10K, or 150K. Well, I feel like that too. So you think to yourself, why shouldn't I leverage? Maybe just 2x or 3x or 10x. Your eyes are flashing with dollar signs. This rocket ship can only go straight up, right? Well, no. We are going up, yes, but the longs are piling on top of longs. A small rumor could move the needle just enough for liquidation cascade. Don't let a sudden flash crash destroy what you've been patiently waiting for months or even years. I can pretty much guarantee that this will happen as we go up. We are going to have 15 to 25% red wicks. The volatility just demands it. I've been burned by these crashes a lot when I didn't know better, and I believe I have learned my lesson. Don't do the same mistakes I did. You are not only going to lose money, you're going to F up your mental health and your sleep too. Here, Bitcoiners have it right. The only thing you need to do is hodl. Don't leverage. Don't try to trade the tops and bottoms. You only give your money to the same whales that made your life miserable this past year. You want to get back to them? You want to get back to them and those those that effed with us, the crypto influencers on Twitter, the miners that paid to FUD proof of stake, the haters and the shitcoin peddlers, deny them the chance to have your ether. Make them beg for it. Make them FOMO like they've never FOMO'd for any coin. Make the market go crazy. Hold on for dear life. Spot only, preferably in self-custody. Yeah, there's some wise words there. Speaks from experience. That is Iter ad Astra, a duder number 35. User Harog, wow, he's on the Doots twice this week, dives into an interesting observation by an EF researcher. Yesterday, Tony Warstatter, hopefully I said that, Warstatter, an EF researcher, had an interesting talk at DAppCon about block sizes in Ethereum and how size is distributed. Apparently, some builders do not include as many blobs as others because including blobs gives little rewards, but could increase the risk of the block not propagating fast enough in the network and getting reorged. As far as I understand, Beaver Build, the largest builder, does include fewer blobs than Titan Builder, the second largest one. I just gotta stop for a second. Beaver Build? It's awesome. It's a great name. Currently, this is not a big deal as L2s can just increase the fee tip to make it more attractive to include the blob. But this generally hints at a mispriced resource within the Ethereum protocol. Similar with very large transactions that do not pay a high enough fee due to the very low priced call data in the EVM. As far as I see it, this needs to be fixed before increasing the number of blobs per block, and probably also before increasing the block gas limit by a large amount. And he also talks about how he broke Sepolia with his super large transaction. It's definitely worth a listen. User Harog has also included a YouTube link here. You can find it at dailydoots.com. Harog is a duder number 79. User Sparta89 lists off all of the anti-crypto senators to contact. Here we go. And there's a whole list of names here. Possible crypto swing vote senators to contact for FIT21. And this is according to standwithcrypto.org/politicians. Looks like we got a little bit of a heat map about what their stances are. And right at the top of the list, Tom Emmer, strongly supportive. He is a joy to listen to if you've ever listened to Tom Emmer speak. Just pretty plain spoken. I like his style. Very good. That's an interesting website. Standwithcrypto.org/politician. You can, I'll just search Kansas here. Let's just see what you can do with it. All right. Strongly against is Roger Marshall. He's a senator. So I can click on his name and then it shows you what he voted on, what he co-sponsored, all that stuff. Okay. And then if you want to at him on the Twitters, you can do that. That's a really nice resource. So you can just poke a bear if you want. Very good. Very good. I like it. Good job, Sparta89. Did I already tell what his number was? The duder number 6. Excellent. And finally, for this week, user So Not You. What a name. That's a new sounding name to me. User So Not You is a duder16. They've been around a bit. Gets a retroactive dude for a comment in another daily, which covered some pretty significant news from Justin Drake. Justin Drake recently became an advisor to the Eigen Foundation. I feel the community deserves transparency, so here's an extended disclosure, and there's a tweet. And the response from the EF. The Ethereum Foundation's credible neutrality is critical for us to perform our role in the ecosystem. We are aware of the current conversation about potential conflicts of interest and share the community's concern. It is clear that relying on culture and individual judgment has not been sufficient, and we have been working on a formal policy to address this problem for a while now. We will be accelerating this work and will share an update soon. Interesting. Okay, yeah, it's kind of like can you wear two hats at the same time? I understand I understand why people may have reservations about a core researcher taking a side gig, but that's a whole big topic that I don't have time to go into. And actually, I got to end the show pretty quick here. I will say this, the live stream failed. I don't know why. Never had a problem other than I think my internet is crappy. I only get 30 megabits up, so something's happening. But I did do a local recording on OBS here. I'm going to get off of this. I'm going to upload it to the YouTubes whenever it's ready, and then I'll also get the podcast. All right. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, if you're still in the audience, for coming along for another episode.
Yeah, of course. Amazing. Always love it. Love that there's like nuanced takes. You guys are one of the gems in the Ethereum community, and slowly but surely the people shall learn.
Yeah, we it's a labor of love, and we got a nice team of people that help put this on once a week. This is going to wrap it up for episode number 67 for May 24th. 2024. Check us out on pods.media, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just search EV Maverick. Stick around after the live stream because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of Ethfinance and the EV Maverick staff, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.